Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're an OG fan of the Division franchise, you likely played Incursions back in the Division 1, and most likely you're going to be pretty excited for Season 2 of Year 5, as Massive have announced in their roadmap that Incursions will be returning. Now that isn't a bit of an assumption of mine, but I think the overall feeling towards Incursions from the Division 1 was pretty positive. But will the return of this new Incursion be enough to bridge the gap between the casual players and their content needs and the hardcore players and their content needs? Drop a like down below and subscribe to stay up to date with all my videos, and let's talk about this one. Now, I'm not totally sure what you guys thought when Massive announced raids were coming to the Division 2, but I was really excited actually, because I've been a huge fan of Destiny for a long time, and I'm a huge fan of Destiny raids. I think Destiny raids are some of the best content in any game ever. And so the idea that raids would be coming to arguably my favourite franchise of all time was a really exciting prospect. Now, unfortunately, whilst I think the raids themselves, they are good content, well, Iron Horse was good anyway, I think the fact they required 8 people to play them was a very huge problem. It's actually still a problem in the game, especially with the size of the player base and lack of system within the game to find other players. I know we have a system in game now, but initially when raids first came out, there wasn't such a system in the games. I fortunately got carried through Dark Hours because I didn't partake in Dark Hours simply because of the 8-player requirement and lack of matchmaking. Through that carry, I was able to grab the Eagle Bearer on my first ever run and my only run. And then Iron Horse, I actually played day 1 with a team. And that was because of my experience with Dark Hours. I did actually enjoy my experience with Dark Hours, the one run that I did. So with Iron Horse, I felt the need to actually play it properly without being carried. And, I had a really good time with it. The mechanics, the environment, everything was really great. Again, unfortunately, I think the vast majority of the player base have probably never experienced raids. I don't know if there's a way of checking in game, how many people have played them, but I'm going to suspect that the figure is fairly low. Even with the discovery mode for Dark Hours, just simply due to the fact that, it's 8-player requirement, no matchmaking, that sort of stuff. And I think this is where Incursions might be able to bridge the gap. Just go between, the PvE modes that we have that are kind of casual, Countdown, Descent, and then the endgame activity, raids. Now, if you didn't play Incursions from the Division 1, here's just a brief kind of overview. Incursions were the most difficult endgame content for the Division. These were 4-man activities with minimal mechanics, and then you had kind of like an end boss to defeat. For example, with the first Incursion, Falcon Lost, which was actually my favourite Incursion, mainly because of the wall glitch you could do with the mobile cover. I wonder how many of you guys remember that. I mean, that glitch was crazy, and you could easily beat that game mode for that glitch. So yeah, anyway, moving on. At the end of that mission, you have a massive tank in the room, and you had to do certain mechanics in order to attach bombs to the tank and then eventually destroy the tank. Incursions are basically mini raids. Now, what do we know about the Incursion that we're getting with Season 2? We know very little so far. We know it will be a 4-man activity, and we know it will have matchmaking, which is already going to put this leagues ahead of raids in terms of accessibility, and I think that's the right thing to do. I think, as I said, raids are good content, but they are for the 0.01% of the community. And if you've seen the trend that Massive are going for with their latest content, they're obviously pushing their content out to the widest audience possible, PvE audience that is possible, and Incursions would definitely fit more into that mold. We know the Incursion will take place at the Merit Estate, and we know that Cleaners are the enemy. Again, something I'm really happy about, as Cleaners are by far my favourite faction in the game. You know, to me, there's still no better feeling in the game than hitting that tank and watching it explode. I just love fighting cleaners in the game. By far the best faction. Lastly, we know it will contain raid-like mechanics. To what extent, we don't know. But if we use incursions from the Division as a marker, I'd expect this to be raid-light mechanics. Something like, you know, one player presses a button that reveals a number, which opens that numbered door. You know, nothing crazy, fairly simple stuff. Nothing like Iron Horse, where you have to have symbols and numbers and bosses and hazards and all of that sort of stuff, and doors and crazy stuff going on in Iron Horse. None of that sort of stuff. Very simple mechanics, very similar to incursions from the Division. That's how I'm expecting them to be, basically. We don't know this for sure, but I'm expecting incursions to be pretty faithful to how they were in the Division, and I think that's best. Now, I do think that incursions, they're going to be a great addition to the game. I do think incursions will bridge the gap between the players who complained about the 8-player requirement for raids, lack of matchmaking, and also please the raid crowd, who will have another endgame activity to complete. Because this is very much going to be an endgame activity. It's just going to be 4 players and less mechanics, I'm assuming. We already have Countdown, we already have Descent, 2 modes to play, so adding another endgame activity that casual players can partake in, but also, more experienced players can partake in, and groups of players can partake in as well. I think that was the best thing that Massive could have done here. Now, will incursions bring back players who maybe don't play the game anymore? I think there might be people who perhaps stopped playing the Division 2 who may consider coming back to play incursions simply for nostalgia, but also I think, if they are good content, if it is a good incursion that we're getting, then I see no reason why people would not come back and play it. Because, let's face it, not all the incursions in the Division 1 were good. It's just the idea of the incursion was a good idea, that raid light kind of mode. As always, fingers crossed that Massive smash this incursion out of the park. I don't think it will be Massive that actually make the incursion. I think it'll probably be Ubisoft Bucharest. I think that's who did the other raids. I think they also did Countdown. I think I could be way off on that, but I'm certain it was a different studio that made that. So I'm expecting a different studio to make this as well. I am more excited for this than raids, simply because it's got matchmaking, and I'm too lazy to be finding players any other way. I've always been of the opinion that matchmaking can work on raids, and I know a lot of people will be completely against that, I know, and if you were to put that to a Destiny audience, they would be absolutely not. But from the experience that I've had with raids in Destiny, for example, the best time I had was King's Fall, and that was with a completely random group of people that were all kind of, some were good, some were obviously not. I was never played it before, and we got through it and we beat it, and it was great. Obviously, I understand the argument that that doesn't always work. In fact, that's probably one of the rare cases, but yeah, anyway, going off on a tangent here. Let me know in the comments below if you're excited for this new incursion, and also whether you'll be playing it when it comes out with Season 2. We're likely going to get a chance to try it out during the PTS for Season 2. I do hope that is not the case. I've always been against the idea of a PTS, to be honest, and I might make an updated video on that, because I think I may have spoke about this before, and I may well be in the minority here. PTS in the Division 2 works because I don't think Massive, I hate to say it, but I don't think Massive can put out an update, a good update, a stable update, without a PTS. But if they could, then I would be against the PTS for sure. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see what Massive do here, but I'd be surprised if they don't include the incursion in the PTS, because it's such a huge bit of content that I think that they're going to definitely want people to play. The chances are that they're going to, just like with Descent and just like with other game modes, the chances are they're going to have a select people that get to play it first and then upload videos about it. I suspect that will happen as well. But yeah, we'll have to see what they do. But that's it for today's videos, guys. I just wanted to briefly talk about incursions, why I'm excited for them, why I think they're going to be a good addition to the game for everyone. You know, I think they will bridge the gap between content, and I think that's needed in this game, because I think at the moment we have a lot of casual content. Countdown, Descent, I would consider casual, and then it just abruptly leaps towards raids, and there's nothing in my opinion that for a casual player they can strive to beat that isn't a raid, that doesn't require 8 players. And I think somewhat like this, somewhat like an Incursion, will give those players that. But for those people that, you know, can beat raids, they'll have another endgame activity. So I think overall this will hopefully please everyone. Thanks very much for watching. Until the next one, have a go.